Hello everybody, this is going to be the market review for the 9th of October. Now, main things I'm going to be covering today is how you could have anticipated this large distribution to the downside and how you could have timed this large distribution to the downside as well. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is, of course, as usual, that 9 a.m. candle, right? Because as you should know by now, 9:30 lays within 9 o'clock. So, how could you have anticipated this to be manipulation? And how could you have anticipated this large distribution down? Alright? Let's first pull out, of course, our favorite projections, okay? So, there's 9 o'clock projections. Because, as usual, we're expecting 9 to be our manipulation candle. So, we're going to grab our 9 o'clock projections. So now, what you'll be able to notice here is, yes, ISMR technically didn't form on one of these levels that we have on our fib. But I want to show you something a bit more interesting here. First of all, what NQ is doing compared to ES, and the exact price level that this SMR formed at. Okay, because again, that exact price level is really quite interesting. So, when 9 o'clock opens up, you can clearly see, just from sitting on the hourly chart, NQ had a much smaller manipulation than ES did. Okay? Then how could have you anticipated that when you're trading live? Well, this SMT right here. Okay? This SMT will confirm to us that this was a manipulation. So, by usually around 9:45, you should most likely know if that 9:30 move was a Judah swing, right? So usually, I mean, of course, sometimes it drags on all the way to 10 a.m. and we have that 10 a.m. reversal. But a lot of the time, by 9:45, you should know the Judah swing, right? So if you just pay attention to where 9:45 closes, above or below the 9:30 open, it should just be kind of obvious if that is a Judah swing or not. Okay? Now, let's drop down to 15-minute chart, for example. Just so we can get a bit more of a granular view. Now again, the 15-minute chart is our intermediate time frame, and it just clears everything up even more. Okay? And it also allows us to get much better entries, for example. Okay. Now notice, this is our 9:30 candle. What do you see? We soup this, we drop down lower, close beneath the minute opening price. What else do we close beneath? That tapped projection, okay? Now I want to talk a little bit more about, before we even get into entries, I want to talk a little bit more about this specific SMR, okay? Now, what I'm going to do to show you the real precision of these tapped projections is I'm going to put a 50% level on these two projections, okay? So that's going to be the 2.75 right there, okay? That's smack bang in the middle of these two, between 2.5 and 3. What do you notice? 689.5. Now, look at the top of the screen here. 6809.5. This to the tick formed our reversal. Once we close beneath this projection here, that's our confirmed SMR. Okay? This right here was a little bonus, right? This right here was a little bonus just in case you weren't 100% satisfied. But this was a very obvious turtle soup leading to this large distribution, right? So, as I always say, before we have that distribution, we always have SMT, right? What else do we have? We have the candle-to-candle SMT between these two assets here. Okay? So now we have two SMTs on the highs, and the SMT that we currently have on the lows is about to get ran through. How do you know this? Because this is the asset that turtle souped. Because the highs, turtle souped, the lows never got souped, right? Because we had a solid close out of the range, because our current dealing range is that high to this low, this high to this low, the high of our range got souped on one asset, the other asset closed beneath its range low. So now what can you anticipate? This to be the real manipulation, this to be the real move. Okay, I hope that's kind of making sense to you all. Because we souped the high of this is the manipulation. The close out of our range, in that same candle, just on a different asset, confirms our distribution. Okay? Now, just to add a little bit more confirmation, we've closed beneath this type of projection and this type of projection. And we've also closed beneath our minute opening price. For me, there's nothing else we really need. Let's drop down to the 1 minute chart. Okay. So now that we're on the 1 minute chart, now we can start playing around a little bit with entries. Okay? Now, if you've been looking at my Twitter, you would have saw me post about tactical projections and breakers that lay on these specific projections. They are very, very important price levels. If you see a breaker, unicorn model, sitting on these projections, that right there, you can be sure that that will hold. Okay? So let's just ignore NQ for now. Let's talk about ES. Do you notice what's sitting right here? This right here is our breaker. Okay? Let me draw it out for you so everyone can see it. Some people draw out just the one candle. You can draw out all the candles. Doesn't matter. Right? But you can see that it's sitting at our projection level. Want something a little bit better? Look at this balanced price range we have here. Okay? Within here, we have our balanced price range that I've just drew out. This right here, because it's sitting on the tapped projection, you can literally just slap your sell limit there. Put your sell stop above the next projection. And hold to your, intended target. So, intended target could possibly be minute opening price from, yesterday's trading. Or it could be the 9 o'clock candle's high. Okay? It really does not matter too much. The main thing is that you get that entry into there and you know where the market is drawing to. Okay? So, now let's actually talk about our drawn liquidity and how you could have anticipated such a large drop today because, well, from that high to this low, it's around 50 points on ES. And on NQ, let's just say high over there, it's around 200 point drop. So, it's a pretty large range day today. And that's kind of what we've been getting recently, and you should begin to start anticipating these moves in the month of October. Okay, now, as I mentioned before, that was our main entry drill right there, right? We have that standard deviation, we have that tapped projection level there, lining up with our breaker, unicorn model, BPR, breaker, entry, bam. Okay. Where do we take partials? Where are we looking to take profits? First partial at this low. Why this low? Why do you think? We're lining up with this tapped projection level. Okay. Look at when it gets hit. 9.45. Okay. Now, when do I begin ignoring these levels? As soon as you come out of the 9 o'clock range. 9 o'clock range, we ignore them. Okay. Now we're trading with raw price action. Now what we want to be focusing... 1 second here. Is, again, we're going to be waiting for some form of significant swing point to get created SMT with. Okay? Same every single day. All of these daily reviews, I have showed you exactly the same sequence of events happening. Large distribution. Where does the finish of that distribution form? When we soup something from the previous day and we create SMT with it. Look at this. Sweep that low, create SMT. That's the end of our distribution. It can't get any simpler than that. Okay? So, at sort of 1 p.m., that's when you should be thinking of at least taking very large partials. Because now we've got a major SMT on the high time frame. That's where you want to start seeing partials being taken. Okay, so now I've talked about that large distribution. I'm not really even going to talk about that move higher because that's totally irrelevant, right? We don't really care about this insignificant move higher as the large moves that we want to be catching, and I want you to start learning how to catch is those massive 930 distributions. Okay, you need to learn to spot that manipulation with tapped projections that I'm showing you, because those give you the exact price levels that the price is going to reverse at. All you need to wait is for a Delta Super and SMT at those tapped projection levels. What do you enter off? Breaker at what? A tapped projection level. Same sequence of events again and again and again and again and again. Right? Like, if you take, let's say, Tuesday, for example, remember what I showed you there? Same sequence of events. Okay? So, again, really, I honestly, it would be better if you just go through all of the daily reviews I've made so far. But you'll be able to see where those reversals takes place and how you could have caught each of those massive expansions. Even if 930 is being, really decoupled, right? So the two assets are really uncorrelated, which we have been seeing. It can make it more difficult to spot the manipulation. But all you need to wait for is sit on the 15-minute chart, wait for a Delta Soup to appear, enter, happy days. Okay? So that's what I want all of you to really focus on, look into, okay? Because that's how you're going to be catching these major moves during the month of October. Because believe me, for the rest of this year, it's going to be quite large, quick, fast moves. Right? So really keep that in mind. 930 is going to be a very key player. So if you learn to spot that manipulation, as I've just been ranting on about, you'll be able to catch these swings super easily. Right, so that's the daily review of 9th of October, and hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.